Hi, I'm Chris and I'm taking now a look at, yes, some normal kind of e-bikes now. I've looked at just foldables until now on the channel, and I know a lot of you have requested that I look at more what you'd call like a normal kind of e-bike. This e-bike here is made by a company called Eskute. It is their Wayfarer model. They also make a mountain bike model too as well. And what we have with this model is 28-inch rims. We have mechanical disc brakes, which are 160 millimeters. It does have a trip computer here giving you all your kind of information, and 5 different pedal assist levels, powered of course by the 250 watt motor we have down here in the rear hub. We've got a 7-speed setup with our gears here from Shimano, and the weight of this bike is about 25 kilos. Now it does have a removable battery, so this battery pack in here is 10 amp hours, and it does last, they claim, 60 to 80 kilometers, but I will be doing some range tests in this in-depth review. I will be taking a look at the design in detail, a few road tests, including, say, braking tests and top speed, so you know exactly what to expect out of the Wayfarer model here. The Wayfarer comes really well packaged up, and just hats off to them on their packaging, that nothing was damaged at all. Everything is separated well in the box with a lot of padding around it, as you can see. So some small assembly is required. You need to install the front wheel, the mud guards, the handlebars. Tools are included, as well as some instruction manuals. There's an instruction manual for the computer too as well, the trip computer, and how to install a throttle if you wanted to do this. You can check with your local laws as well too, because a lot of countries having a throttle is actually banned, so just make sure you're aware of that. The included charger, this one is 80 watts, and it will take around 6 to 8 hours to fully charge the 10 amp hour battery. So we have 160 millimeter discs front and back. Now these are mechanical discs. I'm used to hydraulics, so they don't apply the same amount of pressure, so you do need to pull on those brake levers a little harder. For a non-branded shock, this one is actually one of the better ones that I have come across in a bike in this sort of price group and category. And the headlight up the front, this one has 4 LEDs within it and a reflector around it. It's bright enough that it lights up the path ahead of me when riding in low light. And there is a tail light here with one single LED inside it. It's not very bright, and this is one of the cons. I think they should have put a brighter rear tail light in this particular bike. Of course, you can add your own accessories, your own lights on the rear if you're not happy with it. Does have a very strong looking bike rack here. Now this one can take up to 25 kilos. The welds and the build of it are excellent, like the rest of the bike. We have a rear motor hub in this, so this one is 36 volts, and the maximum output in wattage is 250 watts, which will of course aid us in those climbs and can go up to 25 kilometers per hour. It is limited. Our pedals are not foldable because, well, this is not a foldable bike. They got metal around the outside, plastic like ABS style in the middle of them. The crank here does have a plastic chain protector around it, well, to stop the chain from coming right off, but that's very unlikely to happen. And the chain that they have used here, this is a KMC branded one, which is apparently rust proof. Our gears are handled by the ever so common 7-speed from Shimano, and there is a protector here around the derailleur. And our seat, I do find this one rather comfortable. It's not too wide where it would start to chafe on your inner thighs or anything like that. There's a bit of padding, which is approximately 1.5 to 2 centimeters. And in my time riding around on it, it is comfortable. I think it's sufficient. The seat can be adjusted down to a very low height for shorties and reasonably high there for tall riders. I'm 186 centimeters, and I find that that is even too tall for me. It's quite a large frame that this bike has. Now handlebars here, reasonable width to them. I'm used to quite wide handlebars with my mountain biking, and there is our shifter. Now I did install the throttle, so you can do this. This is optional to install that. You just need to remove the grip on this side. Now the grips are not lock grips on this, so after a while they may loosen up a little bit. I do highly recommend to swap them out then for lock grips if that does happen. So the handlebar height can be adjusted. You can pull out some of the rings here and lower it down a little bit, and you can use this too to bring it up to a more comfortable position, whatever suits you. Then on the left, we've got our power on with the controller here, up and down for the different pedal assist modes. So that's 1 to 5, and putting it onto 0 allows me to then use the throttle. So down here, there's a switch, and I do like this. So you can always keep it on to keep those lights on all the time. And then we do have a buzzer here. This is very loud. Here's a sample. The trip computer with this one is a KYB display brand. Now there's an instruction manual that it does come with inside the box. Pretty straightforward here. So our speed, we've got our distance there, the odometer. This is the different pedal level mode, so right up to 5 as mentioned before, and 0 is when you can use the throttle. Battery gauge here, so each one of the little bars, the bars there represents 20% battery. When it all disappears and starts flashing, that's when it is critical and you do need to charge it. I wouldn't get it that low, I wouldn't run it down that much before I charge it anyway. And you can cycle through your trip time, the power output right here, and then our max and average too. So I have it on pedal level assist 1, and once you get to about 3 kilometers, it then detects that I am pedaling from the crank sensor, and it's giving me a bit of a boost now. So right now I've seen it go up to 230 watts. You can see from the power menu here with the display to around about 120, 150. Now this is very, very smooth here, just riding along. I'm not really used to this style of bike, what I would call a Dutch or German bike really. See a lot of them around here in Europe, but of course without the motor and without any gears too, normally single speed. So I've got plenty of room here, and I find that the geometry of the frame has me quite upright when I ride. I could probably lift the handlebar up a little bit more, but it is very, very comfortable for what this is designed for, which is basically city commuting, riding on the road. Very, very smooth, and it's not making any noise or anything. So far, very comfortable. So if I put it onto level 0, I can use now the throttle here, and you just turn it and you go, okay? The motor, I can hear that a little bit. I can feel it vibrating through my seat, and that'll take me up to 25 kilometers per hour, which I'll slow down a bit here because there are pedestrians around. Now, as soon as you brake when pedaling, all with that, it will detect it and it cuts the power. Rough terrain ahead, which is just a bit of a bump and some rocks. This is a road bike, of course, with road tires, but I can use the gears and put it onto level 2 here to help me. So just change down. Now the gears have been very smooth for me. The changes from this Shimano derailleur, just perfect. There's been no clanking, there's no skipping of the gears on the back. And that was level 2 there, which really did help me. And that small little climb was very, very easy for me. And I can just hear the motor. I don't know if it's coming through on the microphone that I'm using. I can just hear it a little bit, but it's quiet. It's not a very loud motor. So this is certainly not a mountain bike, not meant for off-road, but I do have a bit of gravel ahead. It's quite bumpy, there's a lot of stones, and it's not too bad. Now, the front shock, helping out, definitely. I've got another e-bike that I'm currently reviewing that does not have a shock on the front, and I really notice how bumpy it is. So it's helping out here. Now, it does make a bit of a clanking noise. Probably hear that coming through just now and then. Just then. That's kind of normal. But this shock, for a no brand one, no name shock, it's actually not too bad, and definitely one of the better ones that I have tested. And here is my spot here with a 25 to 30 degree gradient here for the climb up this hill. We'll see how it fares with the 250 watt motor and the different modes, and of course we have those 7 gears too. Okay, so here we go. This is on mode 0, so I can use the throttle, and that is powering me up. But it's slow, and I can see it's starting to slow down. Yes, I'm losing speed, holding about 12 kilometers. So you do need to pedal on the steeper climb. So the gear shifts, they have been excellent. They've been very, very good, and I haven't had any problems. Of course, you should not shift under load like I just did. That's really bad on a chain. Okay, so this is now manual, hard going. Whew. Now, level 1. Okay, definitely feel that. That is helping so much. This is so much easier now. Level 2, using up to 410 watts, and it's saying it's using up to 670 right now. Even almost up to 700 watts of power. That's a lot. And number 3, number 4, and number 5 doesn't seem to make too much of a difference, but it's handling this well thanks to the large 28-inch wheels, doing a much better job than those 20-inch or 14-inch models. Now for the brakes, this is my big area of criticism. The brakes on this, I'm not too happy with them at all. I've tried to bed them in, I've tried to get them really hot. It feels like there could be some oil on them. So I cleaned the pads, So what I'll do now is do a brake test from this post here now. Oh, not too bad, but really it could be better, but they are slowly getting better. So these brakes definitely need to be bedded in quite a bit before you go out and ride. I would do this just so you can brake at safe distances, of course. Coming up to the end of beautiful last rotors like I've done on my other e-bike and scooter tests. It has been a smooth ride. The front shock, you do notice it does help out a little bit with some of those bumps, and there's no noise coming from this, no rattling. It's just the shock with really bumpy roads will rattle a tiny little bit. That's really been the only thing. For me, it's these brakes. They need a lot of bedding in, and I'm talking like 20 kilometers before they've really started to improve a little bit. And what about our top speed? So if you are riding your guts out and you're on the road, I've been able to get it up to 37, 40 kilometers per hour. That is in the highest gear, of course, which is number 7. Okay, so range now, let's talk a little bit about that. 45 to 50 kilometers is what I'm able to achieve with this, with my 80 kilos and quite a few climbs around here. So if you're a lighter person, you don't have a lot of climbs and you do just plain simple city commutes and you're riding around, we will be going over 25 kilometers per hour. That's when the motor will cut out, saving on your battery, and you're just off your own pedaling force then. You should be able to get, I would say, about 60 kilometers. Now, they do claim 60 to 80. I think 80 is really pushing it, but 60 I do believe is possible with this. So that for an e-bike is very good actually for the range out of this style and type of bike. So there are a lot of things I like about this bike for the price point. So this sells for about 850 pounds. And it's just, I think, under 1,000 euros, and we have a very good finish to it. I like the welds, the frame, and the matte black paint job. The packaging is very good that they have used. They've done an excellent job because nothing is marked at all. The assembly does take approximately 25 minutes or so to get it all. I mean, you have to put the handlebar on, as mentioned before, and you've got the front wheel and the front mudguard. But that's not too hard, but nothing is marked there. Now, if you're after a bike of this style, of course, you've got the rack here, which is handy for your, if you're going to be buying and shopping and put things onto that, which is great with this style. And the larger frame, I do find that the geometry of it, for me, for my size, is very, very comfortable. And you tend to ride quite upright. You're not leaning over like that, so it's not going to give you a sore back or anything. Front headlight is very good. The horn, the buzzer in there, super loud. It does actually give people a fright. If you've got someone walking in a bike lane in front of you, I've given people a little buzz with it, and it really does make them jump. So the removable battery, this is a good thing because you can take it right out. See if I can do it now on camera. You simply got the key here, the release, and this other release on the side, and you've got to give it a bit of a pull, and there's enough room with the frame there to take it right out. Now, this can be charged indoors. You don't have to charge it in the bike. So you've got two options of charging it on the bottom of the battery itself, and then in the bike, you don't have to remove it, okay, because it's lockable. And it will take about 6 to 8 hours, and that's normal for a 10 amp hour battery there. So the overall weight of this bike, it is heavy. With the battery, that is, this is 25 kilos. So it's not a bike that you will be lifting upstairs or anything like that. If, of course, you have to do that, then I would probably go for one of those foldable e-bikes there. So what about things that I don't like about this particular bike here? Well, the brakes for me is definitely at the beginning was an area of concern because I even felt that it was almost borderline dangerous riding this in the beginning. The braking distance was terrible. Now what had happened is I think they put a bit of oil over the disc to stop any rust and corrosion there if it's sitting in the box for months. They normally do this for storage purposes. So I wiped down the discs later, and there is a definite bedding in that these disc pads, the pads on them need, okay? And that's about 20 kilometers. After then, now finally, I'm starting to get what I would say reasonable braking performance, but I wouldn't call the braking performance from these brakes amazing. So if they are going to do any upgrades in the future models, I would look at the brakes, and possibly they should go with hydraulic brakes. I think would be a lot better for a bike of this weight, and considering the size of the rims too, that you can get up to easily 40 kilometers riding this. And you imagine a car pulls out in front of you, you really want to have that braking performance. Now my second con, and this is very common, a lot of e-bikes that I've reviewed don't even have a rear light, so it's good that we've got one at least. This rear light, it's big, okay, our tail light here, but it has just one tiny little miserable LED inside there that's not really that bright at all, and it should be brighter for safety reasons. That is why I have my own rear tail light here, which is a flashing, really bright red one. So I recommend putting additional lights on for safety, of course, there. So all up, I think for the price, and if you're after this style of bike, it does actually get a thumbs up from me. This one is good. It's just the braking performance. Be aware of that when you get hold of these. If you're going to buy one, just bed those brakes in first before you go on a serious ride, and be prepared for extra long braking distances when you first get it. So thank you so much for watching my review here of the Wayfarer, and I do hope to see you in more up and coming e-bike reviews. Bye for now.